Our movie today begins at the police academy in South Korea, where the head of the examinations stands before the incoming students and tells them to say goodbye to their families before heading off to get their hair shaved. Among the students is a young man named Park, who bids farewell to his mother as she encourages him to work hard and do his best. At the same time, another student named Kang is speaking to his mother on the phone, while his father stands beside him, speaking kindly and telling him how proud he is. Kang, however, doesn't seem too interested, and after the call, he simply heads off to get his hair shaved like the others. He appears quite obsessive, so much so that he asks the barber if the shaving equipment has been sterilized. The barber doesn't pay much attention and just proceeds. Once everyone is assembled in a room, the commander explains that their training will last 2 weeks, during which they must show their abilities and follow every order from their assigned instructors. The intense training begins under the leadership of Officer Lee. During a meal break, Park sits across from Kang and notices he isn't eating his sausage because it's unhealthy, so Park casually eats it himself. This moment reveals their differences. Park is impulsive and easygoing, while Kang is precise and obsessive about rules. The next day, they have rope climbing training. Instructor Lee warns them to follow her instructions carefully to avoid injury. One student falls, breaking his ribs, and is rushed to the hospital. The commander addresses the group, reminding them that as future officers, they'll face real dangers, and to prepare, each will choose a combat sport to master for self-defense. Later, they reach the final challenge, a foot race to the mountain. Whoever reaches and crosses it will be accepted into the academy. The race begins, but Kang stumbles and injures his leg. He asks a fellow student for help, but the student fears losing time and leaves him. Park arrives soon after, ready to continue alone, but Kang reminds him that he ate his sausage and insists he help. He promises that his father owns a butcher shop and will feed him as much meat as he wants once they graduate. Park, acting on impulse, agrees and helps him. Eventually, they arrive last, with Park carrying Kang on his back. Lee and the others are shocked, especially since the rest of the students admitted to seeing Kang in trouble but doing nothing. Furious, Lee orders them all to climb and descend the mountain repeatedly as punishment, scolding them for ignoring a comrade in need. Later, Park and Kang are sent to the clinic, where they talk and learn more about each other. Park teases Kang about his glasses, asking if he should have joined a tech college instead. Kang explains that most of his friends did, but he wanted to be different by joining the police academy. Park shares that he enrolled because it's free, as his widowed mother struggles financially and raised him alone after his father's death. By the end of their talk, the two form an unlikely friendship. They are officially accepted into the academy as full students and begin their journey toward becoming officers. 2 years later, Kang is tired of the strict environment and tells Park he misses wearing civilian clothes. They attend a lecture from the academy's commander, who emphasizes the importance of timing in kidnapping cases. If 7 hours pass after the abduction, the chances of finding the victim alive drop dramatically. Afterward, they train in self-defense with a martial arts expert. Later, a classmate teases them with a picture of his girlfriend, saying he'll spend New Year's Eve with her while they rot at the academy. Curious, they try to learn how he meets women, but he refuses to tell. The next day, during combat training, Park forces him into submission until he reveals a club full of girls. Kang and Park decide to go, borrowing clothes from the same classmate, who agrees only if he can beat Park in their next sparring match. They get permission from the commander to go out, and once at the club, Kang immediately tries to talk to women, but comes off as awkward. Park also fails when one girl mocks him for still being a student. Frustrated, they leave to eat elsewhere. Over dinner, they admit they're growing bored with the academy's teaching methods, feeling they might not be as useful in real-life situations. When they step outside, they spot a beautiful girl who catches their attention. They follow her, planning to ask for her number, but a large truck suddenly pulls up. A man gets out, assaults the girl, and drags her into his vehicle before driving off. The two give chase on foot, but fail to catch up. Park immediately calls emergency services, describing the kidnapping. Kang memorizes the license plate and reports it to the police, but the officer dismissively says no such number is registered. They head to the station, but the lieutenant there refuses to help, saying he's busy rescuing a businessman's great-grandson. Kang protests, reminding him of the 7-hour rule, but the lieutenant insists he can't disobey orders. Park then suggests they rescue the girl themselves, asking Kang to recall something they learned in class. Kang remembers, start with the crime scene. They return by taxi, analyzing every detail. They conclude the kidnappers were prepared in advance, meaning they were experienced. They also find a food bag the girl dropped, containing enough food for 4 people, suggesting she had others waiting at home. They question local food vendors until one woman recognizes the order and remembers the girl, pointing them to her workplace. The workplace is closed, so Kang sneaks in to look around, nervous that being caught could get him expelled. Suddenly, a hidden door opens, and he's invited into a secret downstairs area for sex workers. Unaware, Kang gives them the girl's description. Meanwhile, Park sees police arriving and distracts them, so Kang can escape unnoticed. Inside, one of the women tells Kang she knows the kidnapped girl. She works with them, has no family, and is underage, having run away from home years ago. Kang learns she lives in an apartment with other runaway girls. He and Park rush there, only for one of the residents to flee. Kang uses an academy-taught takedown to catch him, and they discover he sold the girl to an organ trafficking gang for money. Furious, Park nearly breaks his arm before extracting the buyer's address. They tie the man up and speak to the runaway girls, learning the victim had fled an abusive father. The girls break down in tears upon hearing of her kidnapping. Park promises to bring her back, while Kang gives them money to relocate for safety. Meanwhile, the kidnapped girl is injected with something against her will, screaming in pain, as the gang forges a fake passport and ID for her so they can profit from her without attracting attention. Park and Kang arrive in a neighborhood notorious for gang activity and corruption. They enter a small restaurant, using the phone they took from the man who sold the girl to call the buyer. When the buyer answers, they realize he's sitting at a table right behind them. He and his men attack, demanding to know how they got the phone. The two fight back fiercely, using the moves they learned at the academy. Though they're not perfect fighters, they have courage and determination on their side. They beat the men down and demand to know the location of the gang leader. When the buyer refuses, they threaten him until he talks. He leads them to an old, locked building. Inside, Kang finds multiple girls being held captive, while Park confronts the man and learns the horrific truth. They're harvesting the girls' eggs after drugging them, selling them to wealthy clients for huge sums. Outraged, Park beats him before joining Kang to break open a locked room where they find a sick young girl. They carry her out, but are met by gang members blocking the way. Kang bravely stays behind to fight them off, so Park can escape with the girl. Outnumbered, Kang is knocked down by a brutal kick. Hearing this, Park hides the girl in a safe spot and rushes back, only to find Kang badly beaten. Park tries to bluff, claiming he's a police officer, but the gang doesn't believe him and attack. Both are overwhelmed, and Park is knocked unconscious. When they wake up, they're tied up. Kang still wearing his glasses, Park stripped to his underwear. Park manages to flip himself up to the ceiling and free his hands, then unties Kang. They discover their phones and wallets are gone and head for the exit, only to find the gang members lying eerily unconscious on the floor. But when Kang's watch alarm goes off, one wakes, followed by the rest. The two bolt, throwing anything they can to slow the pursuit. The chase turns into a vicious street fight until one gang member retrieves the kidnapping truck to chase them down. Luckily, they reach the front of a police station and breathe a sigh of relief. Inside, they try to file a report, urging the officer to come with them immediately to rescue the girls. But the officer refuses, saying they don't have IDs to prove who they are. Frustrated, Park warns him that if the girl dies, he'll be responsible. The officer, feeling threatened, tasers them both. Their academy commander is called to bail them out, and when he sees their badges, he releases them. They explain everything, and the commander takes them to the building they described. On the way, he reveals he's encountered egg trafficking gangs before. The injections force the girls to produce eggs more rapidly, making the gang huge profits while destroying the girls' health. When they arrive, the apartment is empty, with only blood on the floor. The commander promises to contact an investigator, but warns such cases can take weeks. Park and Kang remind him of the 7-hour rule and ask to handle it themselves, but he refuses, saying they're still students. They beg him to help just this once, explaining they know the kidnapper's vehicle number. He calls a friend to check the plate, but learns it's unregistered, meaning they'll have to search street cameras manually, a process that could take a month. He orders them back to the academy, threatening expulsion if they cause more trouble. Back at the academy, they shower off the chaos from the previous day, but still believe there's time to save the girls. They remember a classmate whose father holds a high rank and hope he can connect them to someone who'll help. To their surprise, that someone is Instructor Lee. They explain the situation, asking her to trace the vehicle. Though the case isn't a priority, she agrees. On one condition, they're to capture only the driver, nothing more. Park and Kang are thrilled by Lee's agreement and start preparing for the mission. They head to the academy's storage and quietly arm themselves with a variety of weapons, pretending it's on the commander's orders. Meanwhile, inside the gang's hideout, one of the more brutal members notices the kidnapped girl looking extremely weak. He tells another to finish the job and harvest whatever is left of her organs before she dies. The girl they've been searching for, whom Park and Kang have turned the city upside down to find, tries to intervene, but the thug responds with savage kicks, beating her mercilessly. Park and Kang spend the day training harder than ever, waiting for Lee's call. They push themselves to the limit, determined to be fully prepared to win this time. Eventually, Lee tracks the suspect vehicle's route and discovers something more: a black truck tailing it everywhere, marked with the logo of a certain clinic. Park and Kang immediately look it up online and realize this clinic is where the illegal procedures take place. That night, they stake out the clinic, watching as vehicles pull into an underground garage. They're certain the girls are inside. The corrupt doctor comes down to receive them from the gang, exchanging them for cash. This is it. The moment Park and Kang decide to strike, they slip their weapons into their pockets, walking in like seasoned fighters. Inside the garage, they're confronted by a wall of gang members. Without hesitation, they launch into a brutal fight, unleashing every skill they've developed. Strangely, they don't fire their guns, but it hardly matters. Their hand-to-hand combat has improved drastically. Despite being outnumbered, their sheer determination and the thought of the girls keep them going. Kang takes a heavy blow to his arm, injuring it badly, but Park tells him there's no time. They must reach the clinic before it's too late. Upstairs, the doctor is already preparing their target for surgery. When Park and Kang step out of the elevator, they face a hulking, highly skilled fighter who batters them with relentless force. Realizing they can't beat him head-on, they try to handcuff him, but fail. Park smashes a glass panel to distract him, then attempts the cuffs again, only to be thrown to the ground. Summoning the last of his strength, Kang locks one cuff onto the man's wrist. Together, they tackle him in a final surge, forcing him down and binding him completely. They storm into the operating room and knock the doctor out before he can harm the girl. In another room, they find more captive girls. Knowing they could be expelled for this, they still call their commander. Moments later, he and the police arrive, freeing the girls and rushing them to the hospital. Of course, Park and Kang's direct disobedience means disciplinary action. When confronted, they tell the commander they have no regrets. They did what they believed was right. And in just 2 days, they learned more about real police work than in 2 years at the academy. Deep down, they still want to stay, train harder, and one day protect people in need. In a meeting with other officials, the commander admits the two acted recklessly, but also recognizes their instinct to help others, even at personal risk. He decides not to expel them, but orders them to repeat the year and complete 500 hours of community service. At first, they're a bit stunned, but soon they're overjoyed to continue their journey toward becoming police officers who protect the innocent and fight evil. And that's where the film ends. If you made it to the end, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel if this is your first time seeing us, so you'll get all the upcoming summaries. Goodbye.